Honestly, I feel like what's happening with pickup trucks these days has gotten more than a little out of hand, and I totally get it. These are the best-selling vehicles on the market, but the non-stop game of one-upmanship means a constant barrage of new and newer models claiming to be the best. So how's that a problem for you? Well, for starters, it can be very confusing when you're shopping because there are just so many models, trims, and packages to pick from. But then in the case of this Chevrolet Silverado, well, it feels surprisingly dated considering it just came out a couple years ago. But this one does have something special going for it that's surprisingly hard to find these days. So off we go. This is the Chevrolet Silverado RST Rally Edition, and it's probably about as close as you're going to get these days to a sport truck. Remember those things? Some were more intense than others, like the absolutely ludicrous Ram SRT-10 that was powered by the same engine as the Dodge Viper. And then there were some others that were a little less intense but still really cool, like the Chevy Silverado SS or the Ford SVT Lightning. And then they all just sort of went away. And now the closest you can get if you want some performance chops with a bed bolted to the back is an off-road truck. Don't get me wrong, a truck like the GMC Sierra AT4 or the Ram Rebel or even the hardcore Ford Raptor or Ram TRX are going to be perfectly fine out on the street, but I'm talking about trucks that were designed to be driven on the street. And this thing still has four-wheel drive, it just looks like it's meant to be driven out on the road instead of on a trail. And that does bring me to an important point. If you want this thing to do more than just look the part, it is going to cost you a few grand more. And the other thing is, I'm talking about MSRP here, the suggested price. Yes, I know it can feel like trucks are on a permanent rollback at Walmart because their prices fluctuate from one month to the next. And that's really true of the Detroit 3. They position the trucks that way so that they can adjust the price accordingly. But since those change so much, all I can talk about here is the sticker price. And this one I'm driving, well, it's a crew cab short box with four-wheel drive, a pretty common configuration. And if you want it in an RST trim like this one, you're going to pay 53 grand before tax. And then to get this rally package is going to push the price to 60,000 bucks before tax. But that's for a truck with a 4-cylinder engine. If you want to give it that sort of pseudo hot rod thing that I'm talking about, you're going to pay about 3 grand more to get this 6.2 liter V8 under the hood that puts out 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. And then this one I'm driving has even more extras that push the price up to $70,000 before tax. Now, yes, you can get this engine under the hood of the Silverado Trail Boss if you prefer something that looks like it's ready for adventure. But I kind of like the presence that this one's got. And truth be told, I haven't been sold on the styling of the Silverado since this version came out a couple years ago. But it looks kind of okay here. And I am talking about this one in particular, the RST Rally Edition in red. I like that body color bar across the grille. It really breaks it up and it doesn't look as awkward as the all black you get with the Trail Boss or the chrome you get with some other trims. And then you have all these black accents and they really help to hide some of the awkward styling cues like those cutouts in the front bumper. And then around back, the red paint really helps those Lego block taillights blend in. But the only thing I have a problem with in terms of styling is this interior. It is just so boring. It's a lot of black plastic and upholstery, and it just doesn't really have any personality. You do get some silver accents up here and some fake wood down on the doors, but it all just kind of blends in. And I don't think it would be hard to make these surrounds red to help this cabin stand out a little bit, and that would work no matter what color the outside was. This is the RST trim after all, and it should have a little bit of that sporty vibe. But maybe that's just me, I don't know. I like something with a little bit more character than this. And then there's this upholstery. It's like rental grade. I can't get into it at all. Though I do have to admit that these seats are fairly comfortable. And that wasn't something I could say last year when I tested the GMC Sierra Diesel that had these same seats. So I'm wondering if that one was an anomaly. These are very supportive, and the day that I picked this thing up, I went for like a 5-hour test drive, and I only stopped quickly to pick up lunch. I had no complaints whatsoever. And I also really like that you can choose whether you want full seat heat or just your seat backs. It's a very nice touch. And this RST trim also has a heated steering wheel, so tons of comfort features. And even though I can't get into the styling of this cabin, I do have to admit that I really like how easy it is to use. You have simple knobs for climate and audio, as well as some toggle switches down here that do everything from run the hazards to the traction control and the optional parking sensors. And then up here, you have a bunch more controls for truck stuff like the cargo lights, the four-wheel drive system, or the tow haul mode. And this knob up here did give me a pretty pleasant surprise the other day. Because to be honest with you, this thing is kind of mellow. Now this 6.2 liter, it has no problem whatsoever moving this truck, but it does feel kind of relaxed considering the output or the way it sounds. But then I spun it over into sport mode, and it really surprised me with just how much it woke up. Just a little bit of energy and enough to put a smile on my face when I put my foot into it. And I mean, how can you argue with that sound? Don't get me wrong, this isn't a full-blown sports truck, but I do like that it's got just a little bit of attitude when you put it into sport mode. And the other thing I really like is that this drivetrain is very smooth no matter which setting it's in. The engine sounds great, you get tons of linear torque, the transmission knows what to do, and there's even a fully automatic setting for the four-wheel drive system, so if you need some extra traction on a slippery road, you've got it, but you don't have to have it in four-wheel high. That's an awesome touch in trucks, and it's not something you used to be able to get. That really helps with fuel efficiency, and it cuts down on the wear and tear on your transfer case. But then obviously the good news is that this is still a truck, so you can move all kinds of weight if you want to. As this one's spec'd, it's got a payload of 2,300 pounds and a towing capacity of 9,200 pounds. Not that I would recommend towing anything that heavy with a half-ton truck, but what that means is that this is going to be up to the challenge of just about any conventional camper or boat trailer if you have plans to tow. And if you do, I would recommend getting some of the extras. Yes, this RST trim does come with a hitch as well as both types of connectors, but there's a bunch of other stuff you can add, like this trailer brake controller that is very handy to have. Now, there is a full trailering package that gives you all kinds of good stuff. You get the trailer brake controller, beefed up suspension, an upgraded rear axle ratio, and a bunch of extra cooling for the engine and transmission, which is very cool to have. But one thing to point out is that you can't get that package with this rally pack, probably because of these massive 22-inch wheels. But you can pick and choose some of the other options to make this thing better at towing. The other thing is the ride quality is pretty solid too. And let me put it to you like this. If your car or crossover had suspension damping like this, you would be pretty happy. And it's only in certain situations, like when you're on a concrete slab highway and it kind of seesaws back and forth, or you go over a deep manhole cover and you feel all the unsprung weight of these massive wheels, that you're reminded that yes, indeed, this is a truck. And the steering, well, it is a little light for my taste, but then again, it makes it very maneuverable in tight spaces like parking lots. And it also helps when you're aligning with a trailer. And something else that helps when you're towing, these high definition cameras. I've got to say, these are some of the best on the market. Crystal clear picture, that's awesome. And there's a bunch of different views you can pull up on the screen here. But now for my biggest complaint about this entire truck, and yes, it's even bigger than my issues with this interior. The only advanced safety features you can get here, parking sensors and blind spot monitoring. If you want lane keep assist or adaptive cruise control, you are out of luck. And that is a real shame these days, especially because if you do want those features, you have to step up to the LTZ or the high country trims, and even then, they aren't standard. That's a real shame, especially because if you like the look of this thing or that Trail Boss trim, you are out of luck. I don't get that. It is 2021. Advanced safety features are paramount, and I can't believe Chevy doesn't even let you add them here. But I do have to say that the Silverado has the basics nailed. There is a ton of room inside this cabin and all kinds of storage for your stuff. You get big door pockets, a bunch of shelves, 2 glove boxes, this massive console bin, and then if you look in the back, there's seat back storage and storage under the bench. It is great to see. You can even get this thing with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so you don't even have to take your phone out of your pocket to hook your phone up. That is awesome. But don't worry if you don't want to spring for those wireless connections. It does have standard Apple CarPlay and Android Auto that you plug in, as well as a built-in Wi-Fi hotspot. And then this one has a few other goodies like 120-volt outlets up here on the dash and in the bed, which means it's great because you can plug all kinds of stuff in. And that's what I like about this Silverado the most, is that it's a very user-friendly truck, and it doesn't matter whether you're using it for work or play or for both. To recap, I like this optional 6.2-liter engine, the ride quality, and the way this Silverado RST Rally Edition looks, especially in red. I don't like how boring the interior looks, that you can't option it with advanced safety equipment or the upholstery on the seats. So the days of the sport truck are behind us, but I like that you can get pretty close to the way things used to be with this Silverado RST Rally Edition. And yes, you can get this 6.2-liter engine in just about any other trim, but it feels like the perfect fit for this one. But the best part is this is just a regular truck that you can drive to work all week long and then have some fun with on the weekend.